Hello, so we're going to look at the poem She Was a Phantom of Delight by William Wordsworth. This poem was written for Wordsworth's wife, Mary Hutchinson, and the speaker in the poem moves from a fantastical view of the woman affected in the first stanza towards an appreciation of her as a creature of flesh and blood in the second, before reaching the conclusion that she is as perfect as a human being can ever be. The poem is written in 3 stanzas of iambic tetrameter, rhyming A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, E, so in other words written in rhyming couplets, and the use of these rhyming couplets may reveal a simplicity of purpose in praising the qualities of the woman, if you like, a perfect rhyme for a perfect woman. So if we look at the first 4 lines, she was a phantom of delight when first she gleamed upon my sight, a lovely apparition sent to be a moment's ornament. And if we look at that phrase there, phantom of delight, which is in the title, phantom of course meaning a ghost or perhaps a product of the imagination, and this is juxtaposed against the word delight, which obviously means something pleasantly surprising. She gleamed. Now, the verb gleamed connotes something aesthetically pleasing, valuable, gleaming like gold, for example. And so this is a very favorable first impression. And she's referred to as a lovely apparition, in other words, similar to a phantom or ghost, and again, a sense that she's ethereal and pleasing, and certainly not at this moment a real woman, more like a vision of a perfect woman. And a moment's ornament, so something as opposed to someone, to be admired, a little fleeting, just there for a moment and then it's gone. So here we've got this vision, perhaps a ghostly vision of a perfect woman that the speaker sees as a first impression. Let's take a look at the next few lines. Her eyes are stars of twilight fair, like twilight's too her dusky hair, but all things else about her drawn from Maytime and the cheerful dawn. So we've got quite a conflicting view here in some ways. Let's take a closer look at some of the lines. So stars of twilight fair, and like twilight's too her dusky hair. So these similes are being used to compare her eyes and hair to the evocative soft glowing light from the sky just at that time of day when the sun is below the horizon, but before it's truly night time. And this gives an impression, again it builds on that impression of something that's otherworldly. But then we learn that everything else about her is from Maytime and the cheerful dawn. And this gives a contrast against the twilight descriptions of the woman, and gives an impression of other attributes that she might have were more hearty, associated with springtime and the rising of the sun. And so it seems like she encapsulates the appeal of both the twilight and the summer daytime. Here she is dancing away, a dancing shape, an image gay, to haunt, startle, and waylay. I saw her upon nearer view, a spirit, yet a woman too. And so this description, a dancing shape and an image, again the female subject of the poem is being objectified, not really being described as a person, but rather is still this idea of a vision. Let's look at these verbs, to haunt, to startle, and waylay. And these verbs will indicate activities still that we might rather associate with a ghost or a phantom than a real-life person. Then there's a change indicated here, upon nearer view. So as the speaker observes the woman more closely, or as he perhaps gets to know her better, he sees that she's a spirit and yet a woman too. And so the exclamation here at the end of these 4 lines marks the surprise with which he realizes that this object of his affection, he's been admiring so much, is both spiritual and corporeal. In other words, that she's physical, that she's a real woman. Here she is at home doing some flower pressing, something like that. Her household motions light and free, and steps of virgin liberty, a countenance in which did meet sweet records, promises as sweet. And so it's interesting that as soon as we realize this is a real life woman, not a vision or an apparition, when she becomes a tangible human being, she's immediately transferred to the domestic setting of the home or the household. Although emotions may now be light and free, she's a real person and no longer composed of twilight and springtime. The virgin liberty with which she steps is a reference to her virtue, chastity before marriage. And then in the continents, in other words, her face, the speaker sees sweet records, promises as sweet. We have here an example of analepsis, the repetition of sweet, or the word sweet in this instance, both at the start and the end of the phrase. This emphasizes the sweetness of both the memories or records and the future promises that she embodies in her expression. So here we see her, a creature not too bright or good for human nature's daily food, for transient sorrows, simple wiles, praise, blame, love, kisses, tears, and smiles. So now she's not a phantom, nor apparition, or a shape, or an image, but a creature. And so there's a more prosaic choice of noun to describe the woman. Not too bright or good. Now, that doesn't sound too good, even maybe a bit derogatory, but the speaker's merely coming to the realization that the woman he admires is fallible. It's, in other words, that she's human after all. And this is carried into the next line, where she's not too bright or good for human nature's daily food. In other words, she's human enough to need to eat, so she's no longer this vision. And then what follows for transient sorrows, simple wiles, praise, blame, love, kisses, tears, and smiles, a list of the features and experiences that we might expect to encounter in daily life. So in these 4 lines, there really is that realization that the object of his affection is a human being. And now I see with eyes serene the very pulse of the machine, a being breathing thoughtful breath, a traveller between life and death. So this idea of a serene eye, a calm look, this realization coming over the speaker. And he sees the very pulse of the machine. This is an interesting expression in that the speaker recognizes both the spiritual, the pulse, and the corporeal, physical, the machine, which had a more general meaning in Wordsworth's time, meaning something more like organism, existence of the woman. So her, both the spiritual and physical sides being recognized in this expression. A being, again, she's being appreciated maybe for the first time entirely as a human being in the poem, breathing thoughtful breath, and we have the use of alliteration to bring these ideas together, that she's a being, she's breathing breath. In other words, it's drawing attention to her terrestrial existence. She's not a spirit, but a real woman. And the fact that she's described as a traveller, fellow traveller between life and death, that she's sharing the speaker's journey through life, and therefore she is indeed mortal. Then as we come towards the end of the poem, the reason firm, the temperate will, endurance, foresight, strength and skill, a perfect woman nobly planned. So here we're really listing the qualities, an enumeration or a listing of the qualities thought desirable in a woman by the speaker, all embodied by the object of his affection, a perfect woman. Only the second time the term woman has been used, although it's important to note that she does remain a perfect example of her sex, and that she's nobly planned, which may be suggesting the divinity behind the beauty of her creation. So although the speaker realizes that she is a flesh and blood human being, she's still seen as a perfect example of one. To warn, to comfort and command, and yet a spirit still and bright, with something of angelic light. And we've got here a suggestion perhaps of the duties of an ideal woman in the speaker's point of view, from the speaker's point of view, that she's there to perhaps guide the husband, to comfort him and command him if necessary, certainly command his attention and his affections. Yet a spirit still. So in the last lines here, the speaker returns to the idea of the woman's spirit as being important, and then she is brightened by something of angelic light. So here in the final part of the poem, whilst recognizing her as a living, breathing woman, the speaker is also noting her heavenly aspects. He's really viewing her as not an abstract perfection of the idea of the woman, but as perfect as a human being can be. Well, I certainly hope that you found that of some use. Please look out for other poems in this series. Thank you for listening.